Not only is focaccia one of the best tasting breads, it's also one of the easiest to make at home. This recipe uses simple techniques and yields a fluffy, chewy center with a crispy bottom in just a few hours. Start by dissolving 1 teaspoon of honey or sugar in 2 cups of warm water and mix in a packet of dry instant yeast. Then wait a few minutes for it to look foamy at the top, which means the yeast is activated. Then, in a large bowl, measure out 4 cups of bread flour. I've tested this recipe a few times with King Arthur flour, which can be found at any grocery store. Now start adding the water. Only pour in about half to start so the flour can absorb it evenly. Begin stirring until it comes together as a dry, crumbly dough. Pour in some more water, but leave out a few tablespoons. It's important you look for the right consistency rather than using a certain amount of water. Continue to mix and you should start to form a very wet, sticky, and stretchy dough, which is exactly what you want. At this point, you can add 2 tablespoons of good olive oil and 2 teaspoons of salt. It seems like a lot of salt at first, but it's going to rise into a lot of dough. Once most of the oil is worked in, cover the bowl with a damp kitchen towel and let it rest for about 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, start folding the dough onto itself from the edges of the bowl to the middle. Just do this a handful of times until all the ends have been folded and it forms a uniform ball again. Now cover the bowl with a towel and let it rest for about an hour this time. After an hour, the dough should have doubled in size. Now give it some folds for about a minute to help develop the gluten. Rub your hands with some olive oil and use a similar motion as last time, folding the dough over from the outside to the middle. Once the dough comes to a ball again, continue to fold it in half while turning the bowl. Do this until you feel the dough become stronger and it doesn't stretch out as much. Now spread around a few tablespoons of olive oil in a large baking dish or tray. Then lay out the dough in the center. If you don't add a lot of oil in the bottom, it will become dry after baking. Spin the dough around and flip it over to make sure it's coated well with the oil. But once it's in the tray, you don't want to mess with it too much or fold it over at all. Now cover the dough one more time with a towel and let it rest for another hour. In the meantime, heat up your oven to 500 degrees. After 1 hour, the dough should almost fill out the entire tray. Now rub some oil on your hands again and gently dimple the dough with your fingertips from one end to the other until it's completely spread out. Then just drizzle a little more olive oil on top along with a very light sprinkling of water and some more salt. Now place it in the oven on the bottom rack. Keep an eye on it, but at 500 degrees, it should take around 18 to 20 minutes. Once it's your desired color, take it out and let it rest on a rack for a few minutes before slicing into it.